the session. Right now, as you're all aware, there's a lot that is going on in the space of market access and MSME development, food safety, cattle productivity and processing, access to finance, and of course, green transformation. One of those key cross-cutting issues in all these thematic areas then is social entrepreneurship. Food safety right now is coming in very strong. And of course, food safety as a component of food security. And then aspects of nutrition, aspects of sustainable production are then coming in very strongly. Now, for the panel, the theme for today is social entrepreneurship, food security, and food safety. Are they compatible? Now, that is a question that I just want to throw to each one of you, then to give us your perspective on this. Do you feel like the issues to do with social entrepreneurship, food safety, and food security are compatible? David.
Thank you, Jared. Well, the question is a very interesting one. So if you try to understand if this is a perfect match, well, it could be a perfect match probably, if I would say. First, if every single company recognizes its social role in the community, I believe, social role in relation with the economic stakeholders, of course, throughout the entire value chain, its social role towards the environment, of course, and how each and every business relates to the environment, and the role of the businesses within the community where it is based or where it has an impact, of course. And of course, its role vis-a-vis its own employees and the people operating in the business. So I think we might work as development actors to enhance this process of self-support for the for the enterprises to have a more and more strong approach to the social aspect and their role as a social actor in the ecosystem, I would say. And when it comes to the rural and agribusiness sectors, for small companies, I think the social role of the business has got a strict relation with food safety and food security, because it means, in a way, respecting the standards and the rules for safety, and then means, at the end of the day, providing good and affordable food. And secondly, when it comes to the organization of the companies, the distribution of the revenues are among the stakeholders, among the shareholders, or even fair salaries to the people involved across the entire value chains, means also providing access to affordable food, because it's all the people got fair salaries, or if the stakeholders got fair share revenues or their shares, this will enhance the capacity for the people to get access to food in a stable way, in an affordable way. So if the question is if there is a match, yes, I do believe there is a match. If the match is already there, I would say if some of these conditions are there, and I think each of us in our organization can have a role on this.
Thank you, David. I see you're talking about small companies and, of course, their roles in food security and food safety, and of course the distribution of revenues and the remuneration and all that comes with it. I'd really be interested to hear what Judy has to say about this. The two components, when you look at social entrepreneurship and, of course, you compare it with food security and food safety, is there a perfect match between the two?
Very interesting question. Yes, I would say yes. Yes, there is a match. Just to start, at Nestle, we believe for a business to be successful in the long term, we must create value for both the shareholders and for society. So as Nestle, we rely on people and communities to produce the ingredients we use. Therefore, our commitment as Nestle is definitely to improve food availability, dietary diversity amongst farmers who supply us with our raw materials. The question is why? And by supporting farmers when it comes to food and nutrition security, we build strong, resilient communities while they ensure the supply of our ingredients for our products over the long term. If I give an example, in Kenya, we work with coffee farmers under a program called the Nescafe Plan with our partner, Coffee Management Services, CMS. The ambition of the Nescafe Plan is to make coffee farming a more attractive activity, economic activity for present and future generation of farmers, and in a sustainable way. In Kenya, we have adopted the Rural Development Framework, and this is looking at raw materials sourcing from a holistic community point of view. That is, communities are progressing economically, environmentally, and socially. As maybe some people might be aware, the coffee farmers are paid only twice in a year. And by addressing ways to diversify their income through interventions for sustainable food systems, it ensures farmers can feed their families with diverse, nutritious foods in their diets as they wait for their income from their coffee proceeds. So that is very key. And in addition, once you're food secure, you have the food in you're growing other crops that can help your family. In addition, when there's excess, and that's now looking if there's excess food, but you've already sustained your family, when there's excess in their produce, then providing awareness and training on market linkages, food loss, waste, and preservation best practices. And this is where I see the link of social entrepreneurship, especially on excess on produce, and definitely looking at existing gaps and trends that can lead to more opportunities for the farmers to definitely diversify their income, and at the same time provide for better health for their families through consumption of a nutritious, dense diet. So there's definitely that link on the social entrepreneurship to see how farmers can definitely diversify, diversity on their nutrition, and now looking at those market linkages. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, for that perspective from the point of dietary and nutrition aspects. I think that is very in-depth and really brings a meat to all this that we are trying to answer. And of course, you have Dr. Njiraini. What is your perspective on all this? And what is your view on the theme of the meeting today about finding compatibility and matchmaking, so to speak, between social entrepreneurship and, of course, food security and safety?
Thank you, Jared. I think looking at it, there's definitely a correlation between social entrepreneurship, food safety, and security. However, there's a lot that needs to be distilled from this social entrepreneurship that allows us to do things differently. So I'll give a case example of what we've done at Endless and how we can say we've contributed to this. So we've had a chance to work on the rice value chain extensively from end to end. We've been able to move farmers from yields of about 4 tons a hectare to about 8 tons a hectare, which is a significant improvement. And this is looking at the whole value chain process. So when we look at the overarching goal of social entrepreneurship and restoring human dignity, we've provided farmers with new seeds. We've been able to provide them with good agricultural practices, and providing market linkages being very, very key. So predominantly farmers got paid in about 7 months, 7 to 8 months, but we reduced the payment period from 8 months to an all-in of 40 days. So when we look at the whole end-to-end journey, there is definitely a role for each and every value chain actor to play towards contributing to food safety and food security. So there is a lot to do in that space, and I believe that the social entrepreneurship angle then allows us to achieve this food safety and the security. So there's a correlation, but I think to what extent that has to be determined.
Yeah, just to pick up on what you're saying, Dr. Njiraini, and of course, direct this to Jody. And then, of course, you're saying that there's a correlation, but then to what extent, then you cannot tell. Food security is very wide in scope and has all these four elements in terms of access, and of course availability, whether it's physical or economics, and whether it's nutritious, and of course whether it's you can afford it. And then again, you look at then, and then you have aspects now that are coming into place, of course, with food safety, and then you're looking at nutrition. That is also becoming very important to raise generations that are strong and can take care of themselves and are not prone to diseases and all that. And then new aspects are now coming on board with sustainable production and all this. My question would be, and of course, just bouncing back on Jiraini's comments, to what extent can this be facilitated? What is your experience in that, Judy? Do you think aspects of food safety, food security, sustainable production, and nutrition can all be achieved all in once, all at the same time?
Interesting question as well. Food security, food safety, healthy nutrition, sustainable production, is this achievable? It definitely is achievable, and I think it's looking at it in various ways. As highlighted earlier, Nestle has been working with coffee farmers in Kenya since 2011. And when assessing globally, like assessing farming communities, Nestle found that 30 to 70% of farming families in any country appeared to be short of food for at least 3 months. While at the same time, as I was saying earlier, having diets that had low diversity, typically being short of foods such as proteins, vegetables, dairy, and fruit. And this also applied in Kenya. So the approach we took, and it's just good to give a case study, the approach we took in Kenya, we embarked on a pilot program in 2017 called an initiative called the Farmer Family Nutrition. And it's to examine and later include interventions to address the dietary adequacy and later the diversity of some of the coffee farmers in the Nescafe Plan communities. And we looked at 3 approaches or 3 interventions. One was on the food availability. Is it there? As I mentioned, that farmers are paid only twice in a year. Looking at their dietary diversity and health and market linkages. When it came to food, the first intervention on food availability, it was different interventions where we got farmers in different cooperatives, and farmers were taught in terms of how to establish and maintain kitchen gardens. As you know, the coffee is the cash crop for the farmers. So looking at other opportunities to diversify their incomes through kitchen gardens, local seed supply. So the farmers were taught how to establish and maintain kitchen gardens. They received agronomy support and seeds through different partnerships like Simlo seeds. And besides being taught how to plant their own foods, the farmers were also encouraged in terms of planting and adopting traditional vegetables, such as like amaranth, saga, which is a spider plant, and managu, that are more resilient to climate change and extended dry seasons. That was the first intervention. The second intervention, looking at diversity and dietary diversity and health, this was devised for farming couples to tackle the gender aspects of making family choices together, and not just the woman, but both the male and the female, the husband and wife in the family. And the coffee farmers participated in nutrition workshops. The workshops were basically just more of a understanding of what is nutrition, what is a balanced diet, just the basic, where the farmers interacted with us, and also bringing in partners such as Simlo Seeds, talking about different traditional vegetables. Then in addition to that, there were cooking demonstrations in terms of how to cook your vegetables so that you're not killing the nutrients. And from the study done, it was shown that the farmers, if it's animal proteins, they would rather sell than consume them in the household. So there was that aspect. And that was actually quite practical and approachable for the farmers. On the third intervention, which we are doing a study, it's looking at the market linkages. Because first, it's to ensure that yes, you can looking at your dietary diversity, ensuring that your food secure within your land where you're growing your coffee, but there's also excess. Sometimes you can, we've encouraged the kitchen gardens because of land space, but there would also be excess. So the third intervention was just looking at conducting a study on agripreneurship activities and looking at trader knowledge on nutrition, looking at the trade out there. What are people buying? Even interacting with the farmers and asking them, what are you growing? This is the trend in the market, and seeing how they can also partner to maybe grow the same crop so that there is those linkages to traders. So there was that study done in terms of looking at that and those value addition downstream, and then also interviewing food processing farms in terms of what products do they take, because as we know, during the rainy season there's always a bumper harvest, but then during the dry season we realize some of these key foods are missing. So looking at aspects of preservations and those those different food processing in terms of that linkage. So for this program, I think it was just basically providing that awareness to the farmers on the benefits for the potential once you have the excess, and definitely diversifying your income. So to ensure, just in conclusion, just to ensure the sustainability and to scale up the program here in Kenya, because this was a pilot program, there's definitely need for collaborative efforts with other organizations in different value chains, because the study has been done within the coffee farming. So within other food chains, with other organizations, traders out there, processing farms, and definitely farmer cooperatives, and then of course including national governments, more importantly county government nutritionists, because they are the ones that we have definitely been working with when it looks at coffee farming and diversifying your income and looking at different ways to diversify your diet. So definitely working with national government and county government nutritionists is very key to scale this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. You bring a very interesting point in all these issues of food security with the focus of availability, access, utilization, and of course stability, and you bring in both gendering of all these value chains, and that is something that is very key. And then also in all these four aspects, you show a close correlation of how these aspects then contribute to strong food systems. And of course, then you show in complementarity how then they can synergize together in terms of impact on the populations and the outcomes of the same. But from the background I come from, and I'm an agriculturalist, I understand, of course, and then this is directed to David, I understand that there exist tensions between these four different components. The fourth one now, you're introducing the aspect of social entrepreneurship, because then these tensions exist when you look at food safety, you look at healthy nutrition, you look at different distinct aspects of food security, and then you also bring on board social entrepreneurship. If you couple all that, you realize that a lot of resource mobilizations need to be put in place to ensure that policy is more or less redirected towards that. And these resources can sometimes be technical, they can sometimes be human, and of course sometimes they can be financial. What is your experience in this? More or less like aligning all these four issues that we're discussing with the aspect of social entrepreneurship, food safety, food security, nutrition, and of course sustainable production, and looking at the resources that you might require and the technical know-how that you might need, and of course then realizing that it's important to anchor all this in a policy kind of a framework.
Thank you, Jared. It's quite a complicated question to answer there, but so many themes and topics. But I try to go back in a while and try to understand. So, what is the ideal ecosystem where all of these needs and goals are achieved? Is there an ideal ecosystem where everything happens properly and we can respond to all these needs in a proper way. We have got some few experiences around 4 continents, and we have our own view, and we're changing probably our own view through the times, you know. But there's a key word we consider to be pivotal in this regard, and this key word is participation. We believe that participation in the governance of the business, for instance, is a key one. And there are a few structure and methodology to guarantee participation as a methodology to get access to promote food security, food safety, and the involvement of people throughout the value chain. For instance, the cooperative system has shown to be able to address this situation, specifically in agriculture, in the agro-industry, and even the food production industries. But what do we need to take care of? I think that aggregating small businesses with common goals, as we are discussing today, to provide access to markets, improve quality of the products, and then providing access to technology and services. This is something that participation can support. And then enhancing quality in the production of the products. And I'm referring specifically if we need to create value, because creating value is something that ultimately can provide better quality of life for the people employed, and more revenues, and even more investment in the social aspect of the company. So when I refer to special products, AACOSE through the year has been supporting processes of change from standard agriculture to organic, for instance, change from standard production towards fair trade certification, for instance, and the respect of human rights. So supporting businesses and social entrepreneurs to do more and better, to respect the environment and to respect the people, and to provide access to rights, to basic rights, of course. And there's something more related probably to the single product, which is the link between the product and the territory. Linking the product, the final product, with a product of origin to traceability is something that can provide identity and can generate value into the product. That is why we believe a participatory process also throughout the entire value chain can be more effective in generating value. I'll try to make a few examples. Why is it so important for us to enhance the traceability of the products? First, because we made the farmer aware of his role in the value chain, across the value chain. Sometimes we have experienced in some cases, farmers producing cocoa, for instance, they didn't even know where the final product would go, or what that product that he has been working for the entire life, what would it come at the end of the process, you know? So why is it so important to raising awareness among the farmers, among the producers, their role in the framework of the entire value chain? So what is the link of the final product with the territory of origin of the initial product? Judy, she was referring to coffee, for example. So what is the difference between blends or a single origin coffee? A single origin coffee provides, it's a symbol of identity, because that single origin represents the identity. It represents a community. It represents the farmers behind that product. Okay, so traceability provides a link between the consumers at the end of the journey and the initial farmer producing the coffee bean, for instance. Okay, Why I'm saying that? Because at the eye of the consumers, of the customer, traceability provides, shows the identity of the initial farmers, which is very important in the process of creating value. So now we kind of think to the concept that you, Jared, referred before of SCPs, because when we take in consideration the sustainable consumption and production practices, one component is the one referring, the P is on the production side, but what is the role of the consumer in all of this? Because this is one also of the pillars of our work in Kenya. So what is the position of the consumer in this process? If we refer to a customer-led market, we see a very strong opportunity for the social business and the social entrepreneurs, promoting awareness among the consumers, among the customers. Of course, technology, innovation, and new media provide also very easy and fast access to immediate and detailed content. So we can immediately know where that coffee comes from the coffee bean to the cup of coffee. Okay? So we believe that facilitating these communication processes generates value, and this value can be recognized by the customers, by the consumers. So at the moment that we generate value, we can also better redistribute this value. So this will add both in terms of food safety, because it's a process of traceability of the product, and it also relates to food security, because we are generating value, we can redistribute this value across the entire value chain to the people involved. And we can also have a map of the social and the environmental impact of the entire value chain, which is very important. So we just need to educate the consumer more and more to recognize those inputs, those metrics that we start from a metric that at the end of the day becomes communication instruments. And I'm sure Judy, she's a communication expert, she knows very well about it. So how to transfer these metrics of the impact that our work generates into communication. How are we going to educate our own consumers? And so in this scenario, I think transparency is promoted, which is promoted thanks to social businesses. It's got a strong competitive advantage. And then, of course, there is what you said before, Jared, the finance component, because we are working with farmers to support the access to technology, to certification, to processes to create value, to get access to green technology, for instance. But most of the times, this require investments. Investment need to be supported by, I would say, sustainable financial institutions and fair conditions. So when it comes to access to finance, we believe that, again, the keyword participation comes in again, because if we go beyond credit to find business partners and not just lenders of loans, I think we're going in the right direction. I think to support this process, we need to find not just borrowers who provides loans, but people, financial institutions that are committed in the business, that provide also, support, not just in terms of mere finance, but in terms of co-investment, of doing business with. So also the keyword participation is reflected into co-responsibility. I will keep it like this, and I will leave it open to discussion.
Thank you. I think that was a very candid, and you gave a very vivid analysis of the matrix that, so to speak, we're looking at. Just to recap everything that you're talking about, because this is very
was it too much, Jared? Was it too much? Too broad? Was it?
That was perfectly enough. It was enough for the day. Because interestingly, what you brought up that I find very interesting is an aspect of a commercial village. When you're talking about aggregating all these farmers into a commercial village to access a given market. And then, of course, when you're talking about these social considerations for full-scale active value chain development, where you're looking at generating value and redistributing value. And then, of course, when you're talking about issues of standards and certification, and then looking at traceability, and then looking at the end consumer, who then is more or less like this person, the distribution of all these values then focus on. So I was also impressed when you looked at the co-investment bit. And of course, it is something that is really coming up right now. And of course, right now, it is coming up in the context of co-financing, even in doing businesses, and also in aspects of sustainability of these businesses, because the buy-in that then comes from these business owners and all producers, whether it is through the blended financing mechanism that you mentioned in them. So that was quite a mix, and I like that. But then, of course, I just want to quickly bounce it on Jiraini, of course, with an aspect of now government and looking at government and what goes on in the government, and of course, looking at government in the aspects of prioritization of all these issues that David you've talked about. Because if you look at us as Africa, then with us being so quote unquote resource constrained, governments tend to really go towards food security first, as opposed to then looking at issues of food safety. Just looking at consolidating everything that probably David has really talked about. What would your views on that be, David? Andrew, sorry.
Thank you very much. Of course, food safety is a topic that is coming up very much in the contemporary society. And it's sad when the need for profit overtakes social good. Government, yes, does try, but I think the onus is on each and every value chain actor to ensure that whatever they are doing on the value chain, be it production, be it handling, be it distribution, to ensure that whatever they are doing then is safe food and can be traceable. I like the traceability elements that are coming up in the conversation, and it's a high time that we start rewarding quality. So when they've talked about traceability and the coffee, we've seen it happening in coffee where single origin coffees actually earn the farmers and the value chain actors a premium. So it's a high time that even we as consumers, as regulators, then pay a premium for safe food. Because then this encourages all the value chain actors to ensure that whatever they do then adheres to the protocols that are set by the regulatory bodies.
So Jiraini, what you're saying is really about incentivizing the aspects of food safety, so that then we shift our perspective not just on food security, but a little bit also as well in food safety. But then we understand again that there's a lot of disjointed efforts towards all this activity that is going on. We realize that we operate a lot in silos in terms of multi-sectoral engagements, trans engagement, close collaborations. How do you, in your view, what is your school of thought with regards to consolidating all these efforts, and then towards attracting more financing and towards streamlining all these value chain actors, so that not only do we enhance their collaborative nature in the value chain, but also we also enhance their competitiveness while creating jobs. In the context of us in Africa, again, a little bit are being constrained on resources.
Thank you, Jared. To delve into this question and this thematic area, I actually think that Africa is not constrained for resources. Because when you look at statistics, 60% of the Africa has good weather, but when we look at the productivity, we are way, way, way below, especially in Kenya. So agriculture employs a majority of the population, but then again, when we look at the funding elements, I think it is heavily underfunded, and you have a very tough time when you try and get funding, especially for agriculture from a financial institution. For example, in Kenya, I think when you look at the total loan book in the financial institutions, only about 4 to 5%, depending on where you read from, goes into agriculture. So what is it that we need to do differently? Yet the market potential for agriculture is so huge, but it's heavily undermet. So there is a lot that we can do to make agriculture bankable, but then there's got to be a play. All parties must work together to make it bankable, and for the value chain actors and the smallholder farmers to be able to access finance. So when we look at data again, it says that I think Africa has a population of about 1.2 billion people, which is expected to be 2 billion in 2050. They say that food production will need to increase by about 50%. But then again, is this the case? Have we looked at the food that is going into waste? Have we looked at post-harvest handling and the wastage at that level? Have we looked at the wastage at consumption level? There's a lot of aspects that come into play, and I'll get into how we see financing being made possible for smallholder farmers. Just to set the stage, again, some more statistics. We are seeing climate change, sea levels are rising, and they're expected to rise by 1 to 2 meters in the next few years. And that's why even in Kenya, we're experiencing more floods than we used to. So what does that then mean for agriculture? It then means that we have to be more intentional in how we are going to do, or rather how we are going to engage in production. Smallholder farmers, they represent around 90 to 95% of the world farms, again, depending on where you read from. And that is where about 80% of the food is produced. But are they able to access funding? Speaking from both worlds, if you try and approach a financial institution and you mention you need money for agriculture, then they don't even want to speak to you. But why? Because they have been tuned, their minds are tuned to financing that is collateralized. Are we able to offer collateral in agriculture, or are we able to look at it from a structured perspective where we can use off-taking to secure a facility? And what interventions can we introduce in the value chain that then help the financial institutions to derive security and to derive comfort that they can lend to agriculture in a sustainable manner? So there is a proposal, and I want to argue that if all the value chain actors could underwrite the services that they provide in the value chain, then this could perhaps begin to give the financial institutions some level of comfort that would then allow them to lend to agribusiness. For example, if a seed producer today gives you seed and tells you this seed will give you 40 bags at the end of the season, they tell you to give you 40 bags, but do they give you a prescription of how this seed will give you 40 bags? No, they don't. They sell you the seed and they walk away. It's upon you to go and determine the agricultural practices that you engage in and try and achieve the 40 bags. But then again, how can you even prove that yes, it can give you 40 bags? So we want to argue and really push for where every provider can underwrite whatever they say and have some commitment or some skin in the game, such that you give me a seed, you tell me it will give me 40 bags, tell me how it will give me 40 bags. Give me the agronomy that I need to achieve this yield. And if I don't, what recourse do I then have on you? Then that way, each value chain actor does their best to ensure that the services that they give then deliver the value that they say it will deliver. So at Endless Africa, we are taking a disruptive approach to the value chains that we look at. And for us, productivity is key. So when we look at Africa, our productivity is minimal, is low compared to global benchmarking. Even in Uganda, compared to Kenya, our production is low. But we are saying, what is it that we are not doing, or what is it that we can do to ensure that this productivity is met? So there's need for a collaborative approach, and I like that is coming out very strongly. And here at Endless Africa, our operations are underpinned on a model that we call the triple helix model of innovation that brings together government, it brings together research, academia, and it brings together business. So government provides the infrastructure, government provides the policies, research provides new ways of doing things. There's a lot of rich data in research and a lot of propositions, a lot of innovation that have lacked an entity or a person who can take the risk and commercialize these proposals. So we come in, we bring these parties together and we commercialize the research. And that's why I would say, and I want to underscore that this kind of hybrid model then poises you for success. So in terms of accessing finance, then yes, it will be possible to attract finance when you work together with others. So for example, insurance and financial institutions. How can insurance work with financial institutions to underwrite their risks? Are they willing to get their skin in the game to even do pilots that then where they determine and derive data that helps them underwrite agricultural risks more effectively, cheaply, and at higher rates? So there is a lot to do to foster these collaborations. And yes, it must take collaboration for us to achieve this. Innovation is another key thing because if we are going to wait for our banks to fund agriculture, I don't know when that will happen because it's going to take a whole paradigm shift where we even change the credit risk teams in financial institutions because of how hard they are wired to think on brick and mortar as security. Today, you talk to a bank and they love your story. The relationship managers love your story, but they are not able to sell it to the credit risk team. So it's going to take very intentional approaches where you get people who understand the agriculture to actually work in these institutions that are going to underwrite these risks. Then that way, work together with government, work together with the regulators, work together with research, and then again, agriculture then will become something that financial institutions, an area where they will want to play. It's a huge, huge market. And when we look at credit, it's somewhere they could play. And I mean, their profits will soar. But as long as they are going to shy away from agriculture, then I don't think they are the right people to support agriculture. However, there are innovative ways that are coming up. The market, you've talked about blended financing, and I'm sure you will see us very soon in the market coming up with new innovative ways of fundraising for agribusiness. So thank you.
I think all this now is starting to make sense because then I can really correlate what David was talking about when he was talking about co-invested and co-financing. And then, of course, you also bring this issue of blended financing, and more or less like delving into those issues like insurance, of course, underwriting some of those loans, and even aspects of technical assistance, where then you put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. For Judy, there's a question from the panel, just to like bounce it back on you. Question from the panel from Sarah Kiragu. Sarah Kiragu asks, I am Mambui of NutriSense, a startup working with nutritious purple, fresh, and orange French sweet potatoes. I am working with a network of over 100 farmers, providing them with clean planting materials. My question goes to Nestle. I'm interested to know if Nestle works with sweet potatoes as an input in its baby food. Judy?
Thank you for that question, said Sarah. Currently, we don't have a sweet potato-based product. However, in the future, there's a lot of innovation and renovation in the pipeline. Currently, we have the wheat, maize, and banana. And these products are fortified to, of course, meet the nutrition requirements for young children.
Okay, thank you. So kindly send us your questions. I see a lot of comments coming in. We appreciate a lot of feedback from the participants. Send us as many questions as you can to the panel. This is more of a discussion, and I'm in the discussion, so all questions directed then will be shared with the team, and of course they'll give a reply to them. Just as a quick one, and of course then trying to bring all this to somewhere where then all of us can agree on. In terms of implementation of all the value chain development programs that all of our organizations are engaged in, if you go one after the other, starting with David, what are some of those challenges that you've witnessed in implementing value chain development programs with farmers or with SMEs or in partnership with financial institutions? And then how then did you go about them? Then we will go to Judy, of course, with the same question, and Andrew, then circle back from there on.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. Yeah, before being a bit broad, maybe a bit theoretical now, I take the chance to go more in detail on practical operation that we are leading specifically in Kenya, for instance, providing a practical example of what we're doing, and now we're trying to address all of this concept within the work that we're doing in partnership, because this word has been recalled quite a few times during the day. We're implementing this program in partnership with JQ University, with Katangaza University, of course, with the National Chamber of Commerce of Kenya, with IFRO Impact, which is a foundation spin-off of the Catholic University of Milan, and then with Stockholm Environment Institute to provide research and competence on this, and with two financial institutions backing the initiative, Casapadana and Sefea as a financial advisor. And this process is supported by the European Union delegation to Kenya. So what are we doing practically? We're identifying sustainable consumption practices already in place around East Africa, trying to understand what can be due to enhance the use of these practices throughout the production system, throughout the entire value chain, as we said before, in three main sectors, in three main value chains. One is coffee, as we said before, one is the mango sector, and one is the dairy sector. So we have identified a pretty interesting basket of companies, communities of entrepreneurs we're working with in the three value chain, and we're trying to support the adoption of those SCP in their business models, and at the end of the day, within their own business plans, of course. So if I go back to what Andrew was saying before, how are we supporting the banks understanding the stories of the farmers, but in the meantime providing also financial data to support the process of analysis. Of course, in this way, providing access to SCPs, we're generating values. We're providing access to technology, then at the end of the day, generating value among this community of entrepreneurs in the three value chain. Then what we are doing, we're providing technical assistance and capacities, both technical, both managerial, so that those businesses will use those competence, those expertise within the management of their own company. So here, what are we doing vis-a-vis the attitude of the bank. In a way, we are de-risking the investment from the bank because we are providing more and more capacity in terms of management for the companies where SCPs are incorporated. And then, so at the end of the day, we arrive at the access to, I would say, access to investment rather than just finance to acquire SCPs. Today, if I look at the companies we're working with, we've got at the top niche of this basket, we've got 25, I would say, excellent company in the tree sector in this pilot phase, and their financial requests to get access to technology and certification to enhance their green profile, I would say, is around 4 million overall. So it's not a large amount of money. But then we need to identify proper impact investor to be co-responsible of this path, not just provide, as I said before, not just providing loan, but sharing a common path towards sustainability. Today, on our analysis, it shows that only 16% of the companies we are working with has got access to financial services, whereas all of the other ones, 85%, relies on grants and public support. So we believe public support to business is fine as long as it is, I would say, reduced to some aspect, some moments, some features of the company, whereas companies need to find their counterparts, their partners, even the financial sector in the market. Okay, so probably there's a lot that we can do to enhance the capacity, on one side to enhance the capacity of the companies and the entrepreneurs, and on the other side to show to the financial market that there is an opportunity there to invest more and better to provide more impact, both in terms of social impact and of course in terms of environmental impact for the communities.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was quite informative. And of course, the question that we're trying to tackle right now is to look at some of those opportunities that exist in implementation of our various value chain development programs. So that then, and then how then do we harvest some of those opportunities to benefit all the value chain actors, and more or less to bring on board aspects of both collaboration and competitiveness of the value chain. So I'll quickly just give Mrs. Judy maybe 2 or 3 minutes to respond to that. And of course, Jiraini then will answer some of the attendees' questions. Mrs. Monti.
Thank you. Maybe I just wanted to point out the point David had raised earlier in terms of the coffee farmers and traceability. So I think that's the coffee farming is a very strong value chain in terms of where we work with coffee farmers on good agricultural practices, good processing practices. That is very key in terms of food safety as well. Just to bring it back, as I said earlier, in terms of the rural development framework, when you're looking at the holistic approach of the coffee farmer, when it comes to their income, their nutrition, their health, of course, it requires a lot of collaboration. So just in terms of your question on the various value chain development programs, from our monitoring and evaluation exercise that we've been carrying out, there definitely exists a potential for processed fruits, vegetables, staple foods, which are in most cases missing during lean season. The challenges, as I'd raised earlier, at least 4 to 6 months during the year, the households experience food scarcity because of their reliance on their main cash crop, with some forced to have reduced food portions as a coping mechanism. Another challenge is lack of adequate land for, I guess, production due to the subdivision of land. And And none of the coffee producing regions has large scale like fruits and vegetables productions that can be maximized on. So there's some opportunities there. And if willing partners are brought on board, these are the traders, the processors, then small scale production of commercial vegetables can be exploited. And that's looking at the diversifying their income. And of course, coordinating with the farmer cooperative societies as well. And then definitely integrating the youth as well in all this. I think that's very important because with the average age of the coffee farmer is about, I think, 59. So most young people, there's an opportunity for them to get involved in most of this value chains in different aspects, from if it's food loss and waste, where there's a lot of excess, where can they come in, and what innovative ways can they see in terms of preservation is very key, especially when there's dry seasons. So those are different opportunities for the youth also to get involved in this in different value chains in Kenya. Thank you.
Jared, I can go on.
Thanks.
Great. So at West Africa, we are looking at various value chains. For example, we've looked at something like coffee before, where a coffee bush today gives an average of 1.5 to 2 kilos, whereas it has a higher capability. We are looking at dairy, where a cow today gives about 5 liters, whilst it has a potential of giving 20 liters a day. So across all these multiple value chains, there's a challenge and or an opportunity of increasing productivity. And this is the only way we will become food secure. If we can increase productivity, then even our cost of production goes down. A farmer today can determine that this is a viable economic model. For example, having 1 cow or 2 cows is more often than not economical because of the challenges of fodder, the attention and the time that you have to give it. But how about having 8 or 15 or 25 cows in your model? Then you're able to invest and you're able to make money or to have some profitability out of the fat production exercise. So the opportunities exist, but the main challenge lies in transforming the mindset of the smallholder farmer. So more often than not, we have to do demonstration farms where we set up and we demonstrate, come and see, it's free, and become converted. And we offer extension services. So when you subscribe or sign into our scheme, then we will be able to give you extension services. We'll be able to work with you and you begin to transform your mind and see things differently. But as long as we are going to tell you to increase your productivity, but we cannot demonstrate how, then it's just going to be a waste of time. So the opportunities are there and there are many, and we have to work with the smallholder farmers as the value chain actors to help them increase this productivity, increase the safety, and overall contribute to the country's food security agenda.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for the response. Quickly, just to go quickly to the Q&A. Of course, Judy, there's someone that really wants to meet you and wants to know how to connect with you. So maybe after this, then we'll get to share your contacts. Maybe just want to respond to that very quickly.
Yes, I can definitely share my contact with them. There's a question on the involving women. Women are also a very big part of the Nescafe plan, and also pushing in terms of women empowerment programs. They are there, so definitely would like to speak with the participant on that, and even looking at fruits and vegetable growing, especially kitchen gardens. It's you tend to notice it's women who do that, and I talked about the both male and female getting together in terms of making those family choices. But it majority of women then tend to sort of lead the way when it comes to nutrition for their family, and assist them in terms of better health. So definitely would love to speak with the participant afterwards, and I can share my contacts.
Okay. Thank you very much. Last but not least, then my question will be: what challenges are we having? What challenges does the panel face in implementing the value chain development programs that we've been espousing on the last few minutes? I'll just start with Andrew, please.
Thanks, Jared. The significant challenge that we face is the transformation of the smallholder farmer mindset, because today we go with solutions. People have gone before, they've duped the smallholder farmers. And so the question is they ask is, why should we trust you? How can we trust you? We've been down this road before with other players and they duped us. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we face. And the other one is also the financing element. Agri is heavily capital intensive. Depending on the value chain that you're looking at, the cash flows will be different. So you also got to weigh where does your cash flow support and which value chain does it support. But the smallholder farmer mindset is the biggest, and also the services from the value chain actors, because for example, when you come to milling rice, there's no miller who will give you a concrete answer that from paddy, I'll be able to give you 60% of milled rice. So standards in the value chain coupled with what I've said before.
And just a quick one before I let you go, Andrew. There's this question that is just coming up right now: that how do startups position themselves to have access to finance, even as David prepares to respond to the earlier question. How do you think? What is your view, or what is your expertise? How do you advise a Tornam who asks how startups then need to position themselves to access finance?
My advice would be to maintain records, maintain data, try and digitize as much as you can, and begin speaking to your financial service provider even as you begin, and let them walk the journey with you. Let them see. They may not give you financing in your first round or second round, but you begin to build confidence in them as you work together. So they'll be able to highlight risks that you should look out for, and you'll be able to come up with risk mitigation elements as you go along, and you'll inspire confidence. And with time, they will see that yes, you're running something profitable, and we can become party to your business.
I apologize, Dr. for putting you on the spot, yeah? But then that had to be answered. Sorry. David, we are looking at the challenges now that we are facing in implementing some of our value chain development programs. Kindly give us your views on the same, and how then you are surmounting some of those. Then, of course, we'll go to Mrs. Judy. Then we'll take a 7-minute break where, of course, Joan will give us a video of the CEO, which was earlier giving us a program.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Well, I share the view, Andrew's view on startups. Of course, you need to track your records, your data, but if you don't, because you're a startup, how can you have data? Sometimes it's hard. So probably you need to show that you've got the capacity in terms of management of, if you don't have data, because if you don't have records, because you're a startup, but you've got the capacity to manage your own business, and you can tell a story. You can try and show that you are able to manage the company, and you will have strong data in the next month. That's the easiest way to try and de-risk the attitude for the banker or to the bank to invest on your company. But then again, startup story is not just about Kenya or Africa. It's the everywhere story and the difficult in accessing to finance. What are the challenges we were asking, Jared? I think going back to clients, I think clients' view is a challenge because I think we need to work a lot. If we believe in a customer-led market, I think we need to work more and better creating a new view for the products on the client's eyes. And even more if we refer to added value products, we believe that if we need to create value, we need to invest on quality products. Then we need to create a market for them and to educate clients on the value. Why are they supposed to pay more for some products? And so how are we going to educate customers that sometimes they can use less but investing more in quality of food? Another challenge is how are we going to enhance the capacity. So I think we need to invest more on the capacity of the entrepreneurs to manage better their own businesses and how to create value for their products. I think these are two of the value of the challenges. But I think the social business and the social enterprise is the right instrument to achieve these goals.
Thank you, David. Judy, please take it home.
Thank you. I think if I understand your question, I think when it comes to some of the challenges for farmers would be market access and access to finance and of course cost of farm inputs. I think those are challenges which definitely opportunities when it comes to social entrepreneurship. If those are addressed, because as I said earlier, if we are all, if we can all get together, especially as the farmers, where the traders could come and sort of like what Dr. Giriani was talking about in terms of the milk value chain, where the farmers are trained and it's sort of a model where the milk is collected from the farmers. And the same thing with even with vegetables and fruits, because that's more of a diversifying their income. How can we help those farmers in terms of those access to traders, to markets, to farm processing? I think that's a huge challenge on the market access, and then of course access to finance and cost of inputs is quite high, also for their coffee farming and other vegetables that they are growing. So those are things that can be looked at in terms of helping these farmers with some of these challenges.
Thank you, Judy. I think that was quite exhaustive even for us, is sharing some of those challenges we're experiencing in implementing our value chain development projects. At this juncture, I would like us to have a quick preview on the video that John was trying to project. It will take 7 minutes. Thereafter, we are going to answer some of the questions in the Q&A. There are questions here about small-scale farmers and how what are the opportunities that small-scale farmers can explore to improve their livelihoods, especially based on the current economic situation. And Simeon Rono is requesting Dr. Andrew Njiraini to answer that. So after John, of course, then presents the video, then we'll give Dr. Njiraini a chance to respond to Simeon Rono. Please, John, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Amhoye. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust. Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust is a development organization that was founded in 2002 with the Government of Kenya through the Ministry of Finance and the European Union. In 2013, the European Union relinquished its foundership to Danida, and therefore we pride ourselves to having been founded by the government of Kenya and the Danish embassy here in Nairobi. The purpose of Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust is to help build a more prosperous society, and our work involves providing business solutions to micro, small and medium enterprises, especially in the agricultural space. Our collaboration with Tangaza University started way back in 2016 when we initiated a program of supporting young entrepreneurs, youth and women to be able to engage in social entrepreneurship. That's the time we got into a partnership with Tangaza University College to be able to build the capacity of these youth and women to be able to build their enterprise skills and be able to be part of job creation within the agricultural sectors and other sectors of development. And therefore it's a great opportunity for us as MEST to be associated with Tangaza University. Back to Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust, my organization has been at the forefront of working with various development organizations, smallholder farmers, MSMEs, to be able to build their capacities to become better business people, and to also support smallholder farmers to tap the opportunities that exist in local markets and also international markets. Our role has been in empowering smallholder farmers to be able to participate both locally and international markets, and our responsibility has been around training these smallholder farmers and ensuring that they get the appropriate certification of their various commodities to be able to access premium markets. Over time, we have worked with smallholder farmers in various categories, in various value chains, and we pride ourselves to having contributed significantly to the growth and development of smallholder farmers to become better producers and also better business people. When it comes to micro enterprises, especially in the agricultural space, we have played a significant role in building business, in providing business solutions to these companies. We have worked very closely with them together with Tangaza University to provide entrepreneurial skills that empower these businesses to be able to become better business in terms of operations, in terms of financial management and modeling, and also in providing opportunities for international markets. We've worked together with these small and medium enterprises to expose them to international markets by supporting them to attend international trade exhibitions, and it is through these international trade exhibitions that we have facilitated some of the smallest entrepreneurs to create business-to-business opportunities and to open their scope for international market. And so as I speak this afternoon, I'm very proud to say that we have been able to work with over 100 small and medium businesses to be able to open their opportunities for international trade. When opportunities for international trade are opened, we find that it contributes significantly to incomes for smallholder farmers, because majority of the commodities produced by smallholder farmers find their path to market through these small and micro enterprises. And therefore, it is a role that we pride ourselves to having played to contribute towards empowering these smallholder farmers to be able to tap into this market, and also to working with these traders and entrepreneurs to be able to open the opportunities for trade both locally and internationally. When it comes to our role in the space of agricultural production and productivity, we have worked very, very closely with quite a number of smallholder farmers, over 100,000 over time, to be able to provide much needed training and the capacities they need to increase their productivity per unit area. We've worked in various value chains, in the cashew nut value chain, in coconut, in horticultural vegetables, beans in pods, fruits like mangoes, avocados, and we've worked with these farmers to make sure that they're well prepared to be able to tap into premium markets. We have enabled them to establish aggregation centers that meet international standards, and majority of them have now been certified both by Global GAP and also Fair Trade. By certification, it means that these farmers are able to produce food that is safe and that is good for human consumption, and also good for local and international market. when we consume safe food, it means that we care about our health. And therefore, we are committed as an organization to make sure that we continue to work with the smallholder farmers and all the stakeholders and players to enable all the producers and all the food handlers and even everybody involved in handling food to ensure that the food that reaches the consumers is well handled and it is safe for consumption. Moving forward, I want to say that MEST will continue to embrace our business model, which involves working with both the smallholder farmers, the MSMEs, and the financial institutions to allow access to finance farmers to invest in good agricultural practices and to also improve their productivity and access farm inputs for increased production. On the other hand, we also will continue to work with linking financial institutions to micro enterprises so that they can be able to increase their opportunities for export so that they can continue to provide market for our smallholder farmers. And therefore, I'm looking forward to being part of this agenda and working in collaboration with Tangaza. Nationally, and also provide opportunities for financial institutions to be able to provide finance that is much needed for investment in the agricultural space and in other sectors that can contribute to job creation and also to access to food and increased income for our farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for the video. Now that was the CEO of MESP, Madam Rebecca Namhoy, explaining a little bit about MESP and how the MESP then operates in this space of value chain development, enterprise development, green transformation, and of course, food safety. Just as a close one, I want to thank the panel of technical experts that we've had today, David Rebeleso, Dr. Andrew Njiraini, and of course, Mrs. Judy Mangi, for taking the time and for attending this session, and of course, offering insights on how all these 4 key elements of social entrepreneurship, food safety, and of course, food security and nutrition, and then coupled with all aspects of sustainable production play out in the context of this discussion. Number 2, I want to thank the 38 attendees that we have right now for listening in, and of course for giving comments and for contributing even to make this discussion lively and for attending the session. And of course, just as a close, I want to give each one of us, starting with Mrs. Judy, a chance to, if you have any last words, even as we close today's forum.
Thank you very much. I've also enjoyed this session and learning a lot from both David and Dr. Giriani. Just to conclude, and food, I personally feel food and nutrition is a very strong issue in rural communities that supply our key ingredients for Nestle, and it's therefore an issue that should be raised high up the agenda by companies, consumers, and investors. And I think if we can gather information as we did today to inform interventions, to form partnerships across the food system, to bring interventions to scale, and raise the issue with key stakeholders such as governments and NGOs to trigger greater action. I'm very passionate about women, and women are also very involved when it comes to the fresh produce entrepreneurship, and we can use women as change agents for rural poverty reduction. And definitely the youth involvement is also very, very key for agriculture. Definitely the involvement in downstream value chain activities There's the whole animal feed production and compost manure from excess fresh produce supplied during high seasons and low seasons. So that's very key. And I think with all these interventions, we can continue to improve the livelihood of coffee farmers, their families, and farm workers, and the resilience and prosperity of farming communities and our stakeholders across our value chain. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. David, please, last words.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed so much this session. Thank you very much for having us, for having me. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Andrea, for your inputs. Thank you, Jared, for chairing the session. All of your colleagues for organizing this panel. I've taken few notes. Couple. I would say, as first, harmonization over prioritization as a concept to guarantee an holistic view in the production cycle and its impact. So instead of prioritizing, I think we should think of how we harmonize all the stakeholders in all of the processes. And the second point, I would say, participation over unilateral leadership. I think, as I said before, I think participation can guarantee quality in products, an efficient control system in food safety, can guarantee competitiveness in the market, fair returns for the companies and for the rural workers and farmers involved in the value chain, and more good environment for all. So definitely, I would say participation over unilateral leadership. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the participants.
Thank you very much, David. Dr. Andrew Njirani.
Thank you, everybody. Judy, Jared, David. It's been a great experience to share knowledge, share experiences, and to learn. And I'm sure we'll be better informed people. So my conclusion is that we have a chance to reimagine agriculture. We have a chance to do it differently. Times are changing. We have issues of climate change, and we cannot do it the same way. So we've got to start looking at innovative ways of doing things. For example, coming up with climate resilient seeds that will then cater for the climate change issues that we are facing and we are going to continue to face. The other one is we have to approach it and also specialize, because we cannot do everything. As a value chain actor, you can't do everything. As a producer, you cannot produce everything. So there is what will grow in different ecological zones. So there's also that aspect of smart specialization. Focus on what you do best, on what will give you the best yields, and let another region focus on something else. And that way, we all win, we all have good yields, we all have food security. So thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, David. I feel honored to be in the presence of you three, and of course, I feel like I've learned a lot. I know that I've learned a lot from Judy's passion about gendering and inclusion of women and youth in active value chain development, to Njirani talking about inclusive financing and access to finance and reimagining agriculture, and of course to David talking about social considerations for value chain development, also looking at aspects of traceability, commercial villages, mindset change, and all that. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to have been part of this panel. And of course, for the attendees, this cannot happen without you. Of course, we are always grateful and honored to have you to be part of us. I'll just request all of us who are the panelists to unmute and clap for the attendees and clap for ourselves, and then of course end the session.